I'm going to start with a story that might feel familiar. You see a cheap desktop on a deal site, it's got a gaming label, you jump on it, and a week later you're patching drivers, swapping out cheap power bricks, and wondering why the frame rate drops every time you open a browser tab. The regret that follows is usually a mix of wasted money and wasted time. That's why, before you click Add to Cart, you need to ask yourself if there's a smarter way to get the performance you actually need without all the hidden hassles. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk you through why the Skytech Archangel might be that smarter buy or why you should keep looking. First off, the Archangel sits in the middle of the pre-built gaming market. It's not the ultra-high-end, custom loop machine you'd see in a professional esports arena, but it also isn't the $500 bare-bones box that ships with a generic i3 and an integrated GPU. The headline numbers Ryzen 7 5700 at 3.7 GHz, boosting to 4.6 GHz, and AMD Radeon RX 9060 XT with 8 GB of GDDR6, 32 GB of DDR4 RAM, and a 1 TB NVMe SSD suggest a system that can comfortably sit at 1080p ultra settings in most current titles, and even dip into 1440p at high presets. For most gamers who spend about 3 to 4 hours a day on titles like Cyberpunk 2077 Valorant or Minecraft with texture packs, those specs are more than enough to deliver smooth gameplay without having to lower settings every other level. What I really liked about the Archangel is the way Skytech has paired the CPU and GPU. The Ryzen 7 5700 is an 8-core, 16-thread processor that still feels snappy in single-core workloads. In practice, this means that when you're streaming your gameplay on Twitch, the system doesn't choke on the encoding workload. I tested a quick OBS session while running Fortnite at 1080p, and the frame rate stayed steady around 70 frames per second with the stream averaging 4 megabits per second. That combination is something you typically have to fine-tune in a custom build, but here it's baked in and ready to go. The 32 GB of RAM is another practical win. Many pre-built rigs stop at 16 GB, which is fine for most games, but can become a bottleneck when you start multitasking, say, running a Discord voice call, a web browser with several tabs, and a game launcher all at once. The extra memory lets you keep everything open without seeing a dip in performance. It's a subtle advantage that only becomes apparent after you've spent a few weeks using the system for both gaming and everyday tasks like editing videos or compiling code. Now, for the potential downsides. The first thing that catches most buyers off guard is the 650W gold-rated power supply. It's a solid unit, but when you pair a mid-range GPU like the RX 9060 XT with a high-end CPU, you're sitting close to the PSU's maximum continuous load during intensive sessions. In real-world terms, that doesn't mean your PC will shut down, but it does limit headroom for future upgrades. If you ever want to swap to an RTX 4070 or add additional storage drives, you'll have to check the total wattage draw. In short, the Archangel is built around a specific performance envelope, and stepping outside of that envelope could require a new PSU. Another practical trade-off is the cooling solution. Skytech includes a high-performance air cooler, which does a respectable job keeping the Ryzen chip under 75 C under load. However, the case itself is a fairly standard mid-tower with a single front intake fan and a rear exhaust. On the surface, temperatures stay within safe limits, but if you live in a hot climate or plan on overclocking even modestly, you might see the GPU temperature creep into the high 80s during marathon gaming sessions. Users who are sensitive to noise may notice the fans spin up a bit louder than some boutique liquid-cooled rigs. For most people, it's a small price to pay for a pre-built that doesn't require you to purchase additional cooling components. Who should buy the Archangel? If you're a gamer who wants a Radeon play machine out of the box, with a solid balance of CPU and GPU power, and you also need the extra RAM for content creation or heavy multitasking, this system is a good fit. It's especially appealing for people who aren't comfortable building their own PC, but still want performance that feels future-proof for at least the next 2 to 3 years. College students, young professionals, and small to medium households that want a single desktop for both work and play will find the Archangel's specs line up nicely with those needs. Who should skip it? If you're a hardcore esports competitor who lives at 240 Hz and expects every frame to be pushed to the absolute limit, you may find the RX 9060 XT falling short of the raw power needed for the highest competitive settings. Likewise, anyone planning to dive deep into 4K gaming or VR at maximum detail should consider a system built around a higher-tiered GPU and perhaps a more robust cooling solution. Finally, if you anticipate frequent